EduLead. As far as EduLead, I mean, the education programs is concerned.
You're frozen, Mr. Suleiman. Maybe it's the internet connection. Maybe you can try to sign in and sign out and sign in again because you are frozen now. While we're waiting for Mr. Suleiman to sort out his connectivity issue, we hope that we will see many of the school leaders attend the session because it is quite an important opportunity for you to reflect on your schools, on the progress in your schools, and to see how and what you can do to raise the quality of teaching and learning. I will share this the PowerPoint or Google Slides with you because there are links in there that you can follow. And in order to get these slides, we would want you to be sure that you complete the session or the ticket, exit ticket at the end of the session. If you complete the exit ticket, you will be able to get your certificate of participation. So as we go along, I will share this in the chat box, and I will also ask Mr. Suleiman to share it in your WhatsApp group. So I would just like to know, we've got people here with us. Oh, you are back, Mr. Suleiman.
Yeah, apology for lost. Today we have an internet issue as well as in Dar es Salaam. So we apologize for getting lost. But I'm back. I'm sure I've changed the device now. I'm sure it's not going to happen. I was emphasizing our role when after getting this opportunity through the NAMA Foundation. That's where we met with our international consultants. So let's not get this out of the opportunity, because as far as the programs is concerning, the assessment is concerned, it's for our own benefits. So it's sad to say some of our schools, some of our leaders, not the school, some of our leaders which we have been given this role to lead this school, as the managers, the teachers, we are getting this opportunity. This to me is like the person who is washing the clothes. So before the clothes is clean, your hands is clean. So before the school is going to be transformed, I think ourselves also, we are going to get the benefits. That's why I see like the person who is washing the clothes. So let's not miss this opportunity. As far as also we have taken the responsibility on behalf of our schools. So we are not taking much of your time, or all of your time. Just we need some few of your time, with maybe maximum of an hour, 2 hours, or maximum of some days. As far as we are known, you are too busy, guys, but this is for your own benefit. It's part of also the roles which we have taken to our school. So it's sad to say some of us, we are missing this opportunity. We are attending some of the programs, and some of the other program we are not attending. We are arranging, or maybe we are doing some of our programs with the consultation with their schedules, and some of us, we keep promising that we are going to attend, but we are not attending. This is something which is not good, not only to NAMA Foundation, but also we as the coordinators, we don't feel good. As far as also our trainers, our facilitators, our coaches, they are not happy about this, because they devote their time, which sometimes we can't afford maybe to pay, if they have to ask us to pay for the time which they devote. So my words is just to emphasize, my fellow Tanzanian, my fellow brothers and sisters, let's not lose this opportunity as far as NAMA has decided to invest on our schools and our community. Uh, I think this is, I mean, conveyed clearly. I don't want to mention the names of the school, but let's take the consideration because the other schools has missed this opportunity. Initially, when NAMA tried to engage the school, it was more about 200 schools which they have, I mean, applied or nominated for this post, but only 25 schools has been appointed, and now we are only 22. So let's not lose this opportunity because I know for sure we are going to regret in somewhere in the future. Also, I wanted to emphasize on the assessment. Why? Because some schools, they feel, why are we assessing? Oh, they don't value this assessment. As far as the capacity building and empowerment program is concerned, there is no way you can avoid the assessment and evaluation. That's why we are doing assessment in order to understand well what are our problems, what are our core issues, how can we advise, how can we go about. So that's why we have also to engage. If the programs we are moving on, are they, I mean, relevant? How efficient we can mobilize our resources, how effectively we can use the time and the few resources which we are supported by NAMA Foundation and our other, I mean, stakeholders. That's why we need to understand ourselves. So we have done an assessment. We are happy and we congratulate some of the schools. They have given us the full cooperation on behalf of NAMA Foundation. And also we are going to convey positively for this assessment because we are on the final touch to, I mean, to share with you. And also Madam today is going to touch some points maybe in our from our assessment as well. That's why we were emphasizing you to attend for this session because you will take the reading role from what have been done from the assessment. We are doing our part, but the full, I mean, party, it's depend on how you take this effort which we are trying to support. Some of the feedback to wind up my words, some of the feedback NAMA has already taken it positively. For example, now we are talking about 15 schools is going to be supported with the school improvement project, which is this, frankly speaking, I understand that EduLead and the school assessment has played the core role as far as also other NAMA, I mean, school program, but EduLead has played the core role to push NAMA Foundation and also to make sure that this I mean benefit we are going to get from the school improvement now is happening because almost like 12 or I mean of 13 schools is going to be supported with the IT devices from the NAMA school, and also so our teaching and learning is going to be improved. So let's not take this I mean lightly and lose this opportunity. This is not my meeting, it's not my party. I've just given the chance to emphasize and to talk, I mean, a little bit so that we can be in one, I mean, position of understanding about this program which is going on. Thank you, Madam Elmarie. I hope you can emphasize more about what I talked about. Thank you,
Thank you
Madam.
very much. And I think it's a very important point you have raised. When NAMA is, and this is conveyed to me as well, when they are considering which schools will be supported through the school improvement program, with devices, with infrastructure, that will go to schools that have demonstrated participation, that they are attending the training, that they are really interested in making a difference in their schools. So for those who are sort of not that active, not participating, you will lose out on a wonderful opportunity that's given to you. So let's go straight on into this session. I am not going to spend so much of your time, but I think there's some really important messages. And I want to again emphasize to all of you that at the end of this session, there is an extra ticket that you must complete for you to get a certificate of participation, for your participation to be recorded. I will also record, I am recording the session, and Mr. Seleman can also share that recording as well as the slides with you as we go along. So let me start sharing my screen so that I can share with you the session that we are going to run today. So, right, and pardon me if I look away sometimes, because I'm also managing the people who are coming late and adding them to the session. Right, so what are we looking at today? We are looking at the monitoring and development of teacher performance. Why did I choose this topic? Because we looked at the results of the recent NAMA baseline exercise, and we looked at the data. And the one thing that can immediately make an impact on the performance of our students is what is happening in the classroom. Now, the role of school leaders then, of course, is to make sure that you can monitor and also develop the potential of teachers in the classroom. And therefore, I want you to pay close attention to what we will be discussing. And I will also, throughout the session, link this to the NAMA standards and the NAMA indicators. Right, so as I said, teachers have a direct impact on the success of these students. But teachers and a school can never outperform the quality of their leaders. So, you know, you might have fantastic teachers, but if they're not monitored, they might not perform as well as they can. Or you might have teachers who are new to the profession. Or you might have teachers who lack certain skills. And the only way that you know is if you closely monitor and follow up on these teachers' performance, and also if you can ensure that you put in place mechanisms for improving the quality of the teachers' skills. So the two key questions for leaders to ask are my teachers effective? And secondly, how can I improve the quality of my teachers? Now, in the NAMA index, you will see that there are 4 domains. We've spoken about this in the past 2 trainings. And the second domain is the domain that focuses on the learning success. And we look at what students need to do, what teachers need to do, what leaders need to do in these domains. And each of these domains have a sub area or dimension. And in these dimensions, there are these indicators. So we call them, we have abbreviations. LSS will be learning, success, students. And there are 3 indicators. The same for teachers, LST, learning, success, teachers, and learning, success, leaders. And I'm going to show you 2 sets of data. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to study the data and then to tell us right in the chat box, or you can even raise your hand to say, what does this data tell us about the quality of learning success of students, of teachers, and of leaders in the project? So here is the first set of data. So if you look at this, you will see, so LSS is students, LST is teachers, and LSL is leaders. And the heading says, percentage of schools achieving band 1 for learning success in Tanzania. Now, we know there are 4 achievement bands. Band 1, which says there's limited evidence. Band 2 is the school is developing. Band 3 is the standard has been achieved. and band 4 means the standard has been exceeded. And the target for NAMA is for in 2023 for the schools to have achieved this third band. That means you have achieved the success. So if you look at this, you will see that the number in brackets is the actual overall achievement average out of 4. And the number in the graph itself, in the bar, is the percentage of schools in Tanzania, the 21 schools that we have looked at, how many of them are still in band 1. So I'm going to give you just a minute to look at this and to look at this data, to ask yourself the question, what's the strongest indicator? What's the weakest indicator? And what do you see from this data? I'm going to go to the next set of data and then we can look at this one again. The second set of data is the lesson observation performance. So we looked at 6 lessons in each school. So overall in Tanzania, if we went to 21 schools, it means that we looked at 21 times 6. So we looked at more or less, in some schools it was maybe 5, but on the whole it was 6 lessons. So we looked at about 120 lessons, which means it's quite a representative sample of data. And those are the areas or pedagogies that we look at, the competencies of the teachers. We look at learning objectives and success criteria, checking for understanding or assessment for learning, differentiation, questioning for thinking, cooperative collaborative learning, self and peer assessment, 21st century learner skills, whether the teachers were linking the learning to real life experiences, classroom management, whether there's a positive classroom culture, the use of resources, and the curriculum knowledge of the teachers. And again, you will see here on the left, those are the bands, the performance bands. And in the graph, in the bar itself, it shows the average of the 120 lessons that we observed. What is the average skills that we have observed of the teachers? So I'm going to go back to the previous one. Is there anybody who would like to share your thoughts on what this actually means? As I said, you can write your comment in the chat box. Here we go. You can use the Zoom chat box. Or if you are on your computer, that's where it is. Or when you are on your phone, you can look at, you will find this icon. And you can share some comments if you have a comment to share with us. Alternatively, you can also share, just share by raising your hand or just unmuting yourself and sharing your opinion. Right, let me hear from you. What does the data tell you? Mr. Kalakola, Mr. Selemani, Mr. Id, Mr. Rashidi, Mr. Hamisi, I'd love to hear from you.
Please, Madam Elmari, show us the data.
I will show you again. If you just minimize this, I will go back. So just before I show it to you, just again, here you will see the levels, right? Limited, developing, achieve, and exemplary. And can you please put yourself on mute? Somebody's microphone is on. Okay. Here is the data. So two sets of data. The one shows the performance against the NAMA indicators, LSS for students, LST for teachers, and LSL for leaders. Let's focus on this first graph. Which one is the strongest?
Yes, madam.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. According to this data, I can see the leaders column is a bit strongest of all.
The leaders?
Yes.
Okay. Let's look at this again. The percentage,
according to the
percentage,
according to the percentage level.
No, look again. The percentage of schools achieving band 1, which means band 1 is the weakest performance. So if we have 95% of the schools in band 1, what does that tell us? Is it good or not good?
Would you repeat, please?
I'm saying, if we have 95% of the schools in Tanzania only in band 1 for LST2, which means utilize sound pedagogy and assessment strategies, 95% of the schools are only in band 1. Is that
is not good performance?
Yes. So the ones with the lowest performance means it's the best, right? It means
it's the best.
Not every school is in band 2. Only like 50% of the schools are in band 1 and about 50% of the schools are in band 2. But if we have 95% of the schools in that band, it means there is
the performance is not good.
Yep, that's right. So what if you look at the average performance, right? Which ones are the lowest?
The lowest SLSS3.
No?
Yeah, yes.
No, look at the scores at the bottom. 1.6, 1.7, 1.8.
The lowest
1.4, right? Sorry, yes. 1.4. So there are two that are at 1.4, and that is LSL2 and LSL3. Now, if we look here, what is it? LSL2, leaders, monitoring the process and impact of teaching and learning, and a system of staff performance management is in place. It means that 95% of the schools in Tanzania are only in band 1 with regards to monitoring of teachers' performance and of having a good performance management system in their schools. And the second one, lead professional development. It means our 90% of our teachers, of our leaders, 90% of our schools are not yet at a point where they are doing a strong enough job in developing the skills of their teachers. If you look at the NAMA index rubric that I've shared with you, you will see here what the level 1 actually means, right? So to be in level 2, it means you must meet all of the criteria stated in this level. So you might have 1 or you might even have 2 of the points, but you need to have all of the points in place to be seen to be in level 2. Now, what we are aiming for is to move from level 1 to level 3 in 2023. And you can use this NAMA rubric to plan your next steps. If you are in level 1, you can see what must you do to get to level 2. If you are in level 2, you can read and see what are the requirements to be in level 3. And this is what we are here to do today, is to help guide you to understand what can you do to move from level 1 to level 2. Or if you are a school that is in level 2, to move from level 2 to level 3. But as we have seen from the data, 95% of the schools are still in band 1 for all of the leadership indicators. The best performing indicator is the student performance. And that is because LSS3 is around the student performance in the national academic stand, again, in the exams, their national performance. So we looked at the national performance, which in some cases were quite average, or even some quite good in the district. So that's why this particular indicator is more successful. But is it something that's just surprising you? Are you surprised by this finding?
No. For my case, I'm not surprised. I'm seeing it's the right thing. Yeah. I'm not surprised.
You're not surprised. Well, you know what? And this is why we say that leadership, you're the captain of the ship. You have to drive the performance of the teachers. You have to monitor. You have to set the standards for what is expected of the teachers. And you have to model this yourself, because many of you are teachers or teaching subjects as well. Am I correct? So you are also responsible for leading the learning in the school. And that is why the leadership indicators are these 3. Lead learning and embed a learning culture in your school. That's your first job as a school leader. Your second job, monitor the process and impact of teaching and learning, and a system for staff performance management. And the last one is to lead the staff professional development. Now, if we look at the second one, this is what we saw in the classrooms. And can you see that there is not one area where across 120 lessons that we observe, where the average is in the second band? Now, this is something quite concerning and worrying, but at the same time, it's an easy fix. If we work on improving the pedagogical skills of the teachers, you will quickly be able to take them to the next level. And I promise you, if you look at the rubric, you will see that it's not that difficult. I've just shared here with you the leadership rubric, but at the end of this presentation, there's a link that you can click that takes you to the entire NAMA index, and you will see what the expectations are for teachers. You can't fix it all at the same time. You can't fix it all at once. And I want to make that a really strong warning. It's best to pick 1 or 2 areas that you focus on, you follow up, you monitor, you train the teachers, you put in the systems for teacher development. And once you have reached that area, then you can tackle the next one. But we can talk about that a bit later. Which one is the strongest of all these areas? What can you see? Which one is the highest? Yes?
Sound curriculum knowledge.
Sound curriculum knowledge. Our teachers do know their curriculum, but the problem is that they don't link the content of the textbook outside of the textbook. A lot of the teachers just focus on teaching the textbook, and they don't link the knowledge to real life, to other subjects, to extend the teaching from beyond the textbook. And the important thing for you to remember is that the textbook will always be behind the times. The textbook can never reflect the real life, what is happening. You might say, okay, but history textbook, life changes, and our kids want to see the relevance of the learning. Why should I learn this? How is this relevant to life today? How is this linked to my other subjects? And we found very few teachers who actually even used other resources, talked about real life problems. And this is what education should really be all about. So, but, in general, this was one of the stronger areas that we found in this, during this session. So let's move on and let's look at what do you do now. Here you are, the leaders, standing at this door, and you want to take your school further. You want to take your school and improve your school. And you have to think about these two areas, monitoring teacher performance and then developing teacher skills. Now, what I would like you to consider is, what does it mean? What are the kind of activities? What are the kind of actions that you have to take? What are the things that you must put in place in your school? And as a long-term goal, 2023, but as a short-term goal, what can you do in the remaining 6 months or 4 months this year that you will be actively teaching in your school? What can you do in 2022? So we need to start thinking about planning, and planning in a very focused way. Because if you look at everything and you try to fix everything at the same time, it's not going to work. But if you choose a few things that you can put in place and you can do them, and then you can go to the next ones and the next ones, you will quickly start seeing how, by doing one thing, you might actually touch on quite a number of indicators. So if we look at this performance, let's just minimize this again, and we look at teacher performance and monitoring of teacher performance, I want you to think very carefully and answer these questions for yourself, or even after the session, go home, go to your school, meet with your leadership team, and see which ones of these things do you feel you should do next. The first thing is, you should think, do I have a teacher performance management policy in my school? In other words, what are the standards for teachers? What are the expectations for teachers? What are the consequences if they don't do what they should do? What are the rewards, if any, if they are performing well or exceeding? What forms do you use to make an annual report for your teachers? What areas are included in that annual report for the teachers? You need something like this, because no one can improve if they don't know exactly what is expected of them. In this performance management policy, you should include things like, who's the line manager? Who is responsible for monitoring the teachers. So if you have the headmaster at the top, maybe you have your academic masters, your senior leadership team. So as a headmaster, maybe you are responsible for their annual performance management. And they are responsible for the teachers in their department. And then, but then, of course, overall, as a senior leadership team, you will look at this data. How do you record the data? Where do you write it down? Is it linked, this PMP, your performance management policy, is it linked to teaching and learning standards? So when a teacher comes to your school, new teacher, do you have something that tells the teacher, well, in your lessons, I expect you to include this and this and this. I want to see your planning like this. Here is the format for your planning. I expect you to include additional resources. This is how you do your long-term plan. Where is this described and explained to the teachers? It doesn't have to be something really complex. It just needs to be, how am I going to monitor and make the decision whether this teacher is successful or not? Is this teacher meeting the standards of our school or not? Should I give this teacher a promotion based on what? How do you measure this? How do you compare the teachers with each other if you don't have a set of standards and a policy that tells exactly, this is what you will do, this is how you will be assessed, this is who will assess you, this is the areas you will be assessed on, this is the forms we will use, these are the consequences. That needs to be in every school. And I can tell you that about 95% of the schools do not have this policy. So for me, if I were you, that would be the first thing that I would focus on. Then, of course, within this policy, you would say, as a teacher, you have to meet the teaching and learning standards. Now, one thing that you can do that's going to make this very easy for you is you can just use the NOMA standards for teaching and learning. And there is a rubric, a document that I've shared with you here that actually explains exactly what these standards are. So remember that graph I showed you in the beginning? These are the areas. So we expect teachers to share the learning objectives and success criteria at the beginning of the lesson. We expect teachers to use assessment for learning strategies so that they can continuously assess the students. We expect them to differentiate to meet the needs of all the individual learners. We expect them to use strategies that will promote thinking, for them to use collaboration and cooperative strategies in the classroom, to promote peer and self-assessment, to develop the 21st century skills of the students, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, problem solving, to link learning to the real life, to what's happening globally in the world, to manage their classrooms well, to develop a positive classroom culture, and lastly, to use resources, extra resources, and then for the teacher to have good curriculum knowledge. And you can actually just take this rubric as it is and put this into your school as your teaching and learning standards. And you can then assess the teachers according to this. Is the teacher at level 1, at level 2, at level 3? I doubt that you will have teachers at level 4, but I would suggest from our data that most of the teachers are at level 1 or level 2 for some aspects. And based on this data, you can then say, okay, all the teachers in my school did really badly on differentiation. I must now give training on differentiation. I must develop my staff's skills to deliver a differentiated lesson. Or it could be thinking skills. It could be around collaboration. It could be around assessment for learning. You can't fix it all at once. You can pick one or two areas that the whole school needs, but you might also find that you have teachers who are really good at some of these areas. So they could become the resources that could teach their peers. It doesn't have to be you that's doing all of this, but you are like, you're the overseer, you're like the flight, those air traffic controllers, seeing, where are these teachers moving? Who is weak? Who has strength? Who can help who? Who can share what? And that is your job. And you cannot do it if you don't monitor the teacher's performance using standards. So if you can take these standards and say, okay, this is the ultimate goal. By 2023, we want to be at level 3 of this rubric, or at least we want to be at level 3 of 75% of this rubric. Then you can plan ahead. And my suggestion to you is that you print this out, that you share this, that you sit with a highlighting pen and you highlight in green, what can teachers do? In yellow, what can some teachers do? Choose another color like blue or pink highlighter, what they cannot do, and make a plan that you could think of what you are going to do next to develop your teachers. But it all starts with the data, because you cannot do this if you don't know where your teachers' levels are. So I have, therefore, you will see here in your the slides that I will share with you, the links. So you can see what are the links, and you will be able to then use this to share with the teachers to work on, your plan for how you're going to monitor the teachers, how are you going to assess the teachers, and of course, very importantly, then once you've done this, you must inform them. You must show them, this is your performance management plan. This is what you will be assessed on. Once they've been assessed, every teacher will have areas they have to focus on. They can do self-assessment, they can do peer assessment, but you need the data. And you also need to say, well, do I have a regular schedule of lesson observations? Now that I've shared with the teachers, okay, here's my calendar. I will be doing lesson observations. My head of department will be doing lesson observations, and you write it in the calendar so that you know that you have a regular schedule, and that you also do some learning walks. We're not going to talk about that now, but and all of this must be in your annual calendar. So let's say, for example, the new year, or at the end of this year, by the end of this year, you need to assess all of your teachers, right? All of the teachers need a final year-end assessment. So you should now start planning for this. In which month are you going to do this final assessment of the teachers? Which forms are you going to use? What aspects are you going to look at? How will you record this data? Who will be doing it? How will you share this with the teachers? But once you have this, you must plan ahead so that it doesn't all come on your head in the last week of the term. Oh, I haven't done the teacher's assessment. And I'm going to share with you a planning form that will really help you to manage this aspect. And of course, data that's not analyzed means nothing. It's just a set of marks. If you don't sit down and say, what does this data tell me? Who's my strongest teacher? What is the pedagogy that most teachers are doing badly? What is there a particular grade group that's not doing well? Is there particular subject areas that they are struggling in? What are the issues that you are experiencing? And that is so important. So I'm going to stop talking now, and I want to give you the opportunity to think about what I've been saying, and to perhaps ask, some clarification questions, make some comments, and give some feedback. Yes. Mr. Haidar, I cannot hear you, unfortunately. You're still connecting to the audio. While we're waiting for you, we cannot hear you. Is there anybody else who would like to ask or like to share a comment or ask for advice?
Yes, please.
Go ahead. Mr.
Hello, Madam Elma.
Yes.
Thank you very much in the first place for your presentation. It's really touching, and it's really encouraging, because when you see the levels where we are and what we have in our minds and the goals of our institution, you automatically see that we need to move a step ahead. That's one. I would want to know these teaching and learning standards which you have shown us can also serve as the teaching policies of any institution. How is something that I have not understood properly there.
Yeah, sure.
That's one.
You can definitely, take these standards and you can make that your teaching and learning standards. Of course, you can add to this, you can adapt it, but this could form the basis, right, of your teaching and learning standards. Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much. And we just need only the most biggest problem that we have. It is in monitoring and evaluation. That's where the problem is. That very many things we practice them, we put them in place. But I think these are the questions which we ask ourselves every day. Why do we start, but we don't end? And we always start, but keep good start on the track. That's where the problem is. Yani monitoring and evaluation, really we are still very poor. And also linking our teachers to the goals and the visions and the missions of an institution is also a very big problem in our private schools. But here we go. Let us.
Yeah, I think it can be very overwhelming, right? Because there's just so much that you need to do. So my advice for you would be, first of all, make sure that you have this policy, the system in place, the documents, the lesson observation form. Now you have a big advantage here now, because we are sharing the tools from the NOMA index, right? So there's something now in your hands that you can use. But of course, as I said, you might find there are other things in your school above this, more than this that you want to add. It doesn't mean that this is the only thing that you need, but at least it will give you a good basis to a starting point. And then, as you said, if you don't follow up, anybody, it's natural, even myself, if nobody ever checks my work, and I mean, I own the company, but if I don't have an auditor that checks my company's books, what will happen? But I know that the finances need to be in place because somebody's going to check me, my client, I have to report to my client. I can't just, do whatever I want. And that motivates me to do what I have to do when I have to do it. But if nobody ever looks at what you do, gives you feedback, helps you, supports you, then things will not happen. Now, the big thing is you cannot do this alone. You cannot. You have to involve your senior leadership team. You have to distribute the leadership amongst your leadership team. And that is your role, is to make sure that they are doing what they should be doing when they should be doing it, right? So if you try to manage all of this, sign every lesson plan, check every lesson, It's impossible. Maybe twice a year as a leadership, as a leader of the school, you might see all the lessons, but you would expect your senior leaders in the school to be doing those projects. If you are, and you should be focused, right? If you give a training session on, let's say, thinking skills, everybody in the school should have targets by the end of, let's say it's June. Let's say you go back to school and you give a training session on thinking skills. And you teach the teachers learn 4 thinking skills strategies. Then they must have a target. By the end of July, all teachers must use at least one of the thinking strategies in each lesson. And then you will observe them to look, are they using the thinking skills? If they're not, then there must be follow-up. And this is where teachers can observe teachers, PLCs can discuss. It's a whole system, and I'm going to get to that just now. But that was a really good question, and thank you for that. Is there anybody else who wants to make a comment or ask a question? Okay, it's fine. We'll move on and we'll get back to this. I will give this more opportunity for you to ask some questions later on. Let's just reduce this. Okay. So my point just here is that there are a few things you should be remember that your school, if you move from this action plan and the strategy and the systems and the data that's linked to your school improvement plan, and you think of how do you develop the teacher skills, my question to you is, what system do you have in your school to develop teachers? And the key word here is the word system, because it doesn't help, it doesn't work if you don't have a system. And this system is described in your performance management policy, right? So, and I will talk about systems a little bit just now. Another thing that we noticed during the evaluations is that schools don't link their budget and their school improvement plan is not linked to a budget. Now, if you want to improve the teaching and learning skills of the teachers, there are costs involved, right? Costs for training. If you have to get an outside person, or you have to do a training session and you must give the teachers refreshments, or you must do printing, or you need to have teachers attend some online training courses, or you need to provide them with some materials that they can use in their classroom, or you need to add some internet or devices. It has a budget. And if you don't have a budget, the budget goes into your school improvement plan. It's not going to fall from the sky. So when you plan your school improvement budget, you have to add your teaching and learning development budget. You also have to think, how do I record the teacher's attendance and the impact of this learning that they have? So if I give a course on thinking skills, I need an attendance register. I need feedback after the session. I need for teachers to have a target to achieve. I need a date when we will be following up to see if the teachers are implementing this. Now, it can be that we have peer assessment, teachers visiting each other's classes. It can be that it's the heads of department that does a learning walk. It could be that we look at the teachers' planning to see that they have used those strategies in the planning. You must have a system, else it's not going to work. And you must ask yourself, how will you identify what professional development, what's next? Which one are you going to choose? The only way is by looking at data. Who will be responsible? You must think of who in the school can be the leader for your professional development. You need somebody. You need to give somebody that responsibility. And you know what? It doesn't have to be the oldest teacher in the school, the most senior teacher in the school. It can be somebody who is really good at teaching and learning. we can distribute and make other people responsible. And then, of course, you need to always set some targets. Remember that your professional development, you don't just grab things, that looks nice, I think I must do. No, you must look at what you are planning to develop. Are you developing thinking in your school? Are you developing the quality of assessment in your school? Are you focusing on student collaboration in your school? And your professional development will match that. But there's always individual differences. So there's nothing in the world that teachers hate more than having to go to training when they can do something well. So if you find teachers who are really good at, let's say, using additional resources, or they're really good at collaborative learning, don't punish them by forcing them to attend a training. Maybe they can lead the training. Maybe they can be responsible for 5 teachers that they can mentor and coach. And so be a little bit flexible in how you use your, how you plan your professional development in the school. And of course, the last one is, if you're a teacher, you can never ask the teachers to do things that you yourself are not doing. You cannot say to them, you must use collaborative learning, when in your own classes, in your own meetings, you just talk all the time. You can't ask them to do effective assessment for learning strategies when you are not assessing your teachers effectively. You can't ask them to do differentiation to meet the needs of the individual learners if you don't differentiate between the needs of your teachers. You can't expect them to promote thinking in their classrooms if you yourself don't promote thinking in the school, thinking in when you communicate with them, when you communicate with parents, and even when you are teaching a class yourself. You are the lead learner in the school, and you have to model the strategies, the outcomes, be the change that you want to see in your school. So often we just point fingers at the teachers, but we forget that when we point a finger, there's 3 pointing back at us. So that's a very important role. Now, I spoke about some systems for teacher professional development. And here I'm talking about things like, this is ways in which you can promote and develop teachers. You can have the usual that you will know, the training sessions, the workshops, online learning, professional reading, one-on-one coaching. So one good teacher is coaching another teacher. PLC groups, where groups of teachers come together to reflect on what's working, what's not working. Observe each other's lessons, give feedback. This is the best form of professional development. Peer coaching, conducting action research, teachers' seminars, teachers in the school giving seminars to the rest of the staff on something they've tried and the success it had. But the important thing here is you should always have that cycle. Input, so whether it's a training session, online learning, reading a book, watching a video, whatever, must be followed up by an opportunity to see it demonstrated practically. And then teachers must be given targets and time to practice. And then they must be monitored and they should get feedback and coaching. And lastly, they should always reflect, did this make a difference? Did the marks of my students go up? Are my students communicating better? Or is their thinking skill level going up? Is this working or not? If we don't follow those 5 steps, it's not necessarily going to be long lasting. I'm almost done with this session. We're going to get to the practical side now. I just want to again say, no one will improve if they don't know what the standards are, what their own areas for improvement are, and what their own targets are. Teachers should be part of the target setting process. They should be involved. They should think, what can I do? What can't I do? And here's my lesson for today. A target without an action plan and without monitoring and reflection will just remain a number on the paper. So this is where we talk about a system, right? A system means I have actions that flow on each other, and we do this repeatedly. The system, like a car's engine, this thing lets that thing move, and that thing lets that thing move, and you know, it all works together. It cannot work in an isolated fashion. So what are your next steps? You know, I would suggest that, you know, the first thing in any case is that you should have your teaching and learning policy and your standards in your school. If you don't have that, you must put that in place. You must review the processes, the policies, the systems in your school. You've had an exam now. What does the data tell you? Are there grades where the class is performing better? Are there grades, or are there specific subjects? Are there students? What's the performance of weak students versus strong students? Look at data of the teachers. And if you don't have a lesson observation data, then use this NAMA index data and start thinking about, what do you want to look at? What's the performance of your teachers in the classroom? You can't do them all, because I don't think you have all the understanding of what all these pedagogies mean, but maybe choose one or two aspects and start looking at that. And then I'd like you to identify 3 goals that you would like to achieve by the end of this year. Only 3 things, right? And then create your action plan. I'll show you the action plan just now. Share your plan with one of the people in this group, a peer, to review your action plan, to give you feedback on whether your action plan is strong, is clear, is feasible, is achievable. And then lastly, take action. So I'm going to give you a few minutes before we get to the action plan to look at this data. And imagine this is the data from the last round of lesson observations in your school. So you've done this, you've observed 20 teachers, and this is the final data. What are you going to do next? What will you pay attention to? I'd like you to look at this data, and then I'm going to ask you to give me some feedback. Oops, sorry. Can you all see this?
Yes, please. We can see it.
Okay, good.
Yes, madam.
Okay, let's see. What have you seen from this data? I've given you enough time now to look at this. What are you noticing? What is the lowest, the weakest area for your teachers?
The area of differentiation.
The area of differentiation, right? And if you look at this and you start counting, you can actually, apart from the overall average, you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of your teachers who only got a 1. So obviously there's a big problem. And then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teachers who are under 1.5, which means 15 of your 20 teachers are only at the starting point or are not doing it at all. You have one teacher who got a bit of a higher score. But when you are thinking of your next steps, obviously you should think very seriously about focusing on differentiation. Okay, what is the second area that you could potentially look at?
Self-assessment and
Self-assessment, yes.
And then the use of
The use of
sharing
resources,
of,
yes.
sharing of lesson objectives.
Sharing of lesson objectives and success criteria. Right. So, if you look at this, you can see, okay, well, these are areas that are where the teachers are really performing very low. And when you target something, maybe that would be your first decision. But at the same time, anything that is 1.5 and under could also be something that you could target, right? So I'm not saying you only look at the data, but you can choose. I mean, this is a way in which you could determine. Another thing that I would suggest that you should do is you should look at the teachers' overall scores and then look at these teachers that have such very low scores. Like we have a teacher here who is getting 1 for almost all of the pedagogies. So for this teacher needs an intensive improvement plan. Or you could say to yourself, all the teachers who are under 1.3 and less, I want them to be grouped to somebody who's stronger. So we've got a teacher here who's at level 2. We've got a teacher here who's at 1.8. Then we've got somebody at 1.7 and quite a number of, or maybe this teacher who is at level 2 overall seems to be quite much stronger in most of the pedagogies. So this is where you could then look at this teacher give this teacher some extra support, and this teacher could help other teachers. So, you know, when you look at the data, these are the kinds of things that you can look at. Another thing you can ask yourself is, you know, even though the score for classroom management or the score for something is not so high, is this what I really want to, you know, is this going to make such a big impact overall on the teacher's skills? So when you look at the data, that's the kind of thing that you must do. You can look at the individuals, you can look at the distribution of the marks, you can look at the overall score, and that will help you to start determining what do you do next. Now,
Madam Emery,
yes, please. Yes, Mr. Rafidi.
I have something to ask here.
Yes.
Because I see the columns with titles, but the rows they don't contain titles. Are they standing for the teachers or the number of days someone was observing those teachers?
No, I just didn't put the names in, Mr. Rashidi. I just took it out because, I mean, the row should be, each row represents one teacher.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Good question. Any other questions? Does this make sense to you?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
Let's go to the action plan. Right, so I've created an action plan for you, and here you can download the template. If you click here on this, it will take you to your Excel spreadsheet. So what you can do, I just want to show you how it works. Just give it some time to, okay, so it's a Google sheet, right? So I said, put 3 goals. So maybe your first goal will be to ensure that 75% of teachers achieve band 2, or you could say an average of 2.5 for differentiation against the teaching and learning rubric by end of August, right? So that's a goal. It's measurable, it's specific, it's achievable. Now you say, what's the actions that you have to do? What's the first thing that you think you should be doing? If you say, this is my target, what would be the very first thing you do when you go back to school? Let me hear from you. Or
Yes,
we can also change this goal. We can say that
let the goal remain as it is,
okay,
madam, because it's very important goal, and probably teachers, leaders can take it as it is for practice. So the first step is that make the teachers familiar with what differentiation is. What are the steps or what are the strategies for differentiation should be familiar to teachers.
Okay, so what would the action be? How are you going to do that?
So this is it's just we conducted training, particular pertaining to differentiation.
On the strategies. Okay, so the first step I have is I have to just make sure that this is linked. Okay, let's make it at 12 and we make it middle of the sheet. Okay, my first step is I will provide a training session. Right, by when? If you click on the cell, the calendar will come up. So I've made it easy for you. I want to do it by 25 June. Who will lead this step? Who in your school is going to be held responsible? So you must decide which teacher, which leader, which person is going to be the lead in this process, and name that person. So what will that person produce? So what will they have to do? They will have to, whatever, let's say this is Mr. Combo, right? Mr. Combo, you're going to do it. What will you produce for this?
That just a presentation.
Sorry?
I prepare a slide for the presentation.
So you would definitely have you will have a training plan, right? Training slides. You will have and remember, if you work in Excel, to go to the next line, you press Alt and Enter.
Yes.
I will need training slides. I will need a feedback sheet from the teachers.
Yeah.
I will have to have whatever. You list what we will be needing, right? And then you share. You decide when will you monitor this. So by when are you going to monitor that Mr. Combo has prepared his training slides, his feedback sheet, everything, and you decide here, okay, the training is on 25. So by 23, I must check that Mr. Combo has done and everything is ready. Who is going to check Mr. Combo? And then you will decide here, did he achieve it? Yes, it's fully achieved. Or it's partially achieved. Or he has not started yet. Oh dear. So when on 23, when you are monitoring, you then fill in this column and you can write some comments. Some things that, you know, oh dear, Mr. Combo hasn't done it because some other thing happened, or we've changed the date, or, you know, whatever. So as you go along, you first fill in the actions. What's the first thing, the second thing, the third thing, the fourth thing? What are you going to do? By when are you going to do it? Who's going to do it? What will be produced? And then you just the monitoring side. When have you monitored it? Who monitored it? And what was the achievement? Now, if you work like this, you can really be successful. And at the bottom, I have just duplicated the sheet. So for each goal, you can just, remember I said you need 3 goals. So you just fill in your goal there, and then you complete the steps. First step, what will you do? By when? Who? What will be the evidence? What will you produce? And then the monitoring side is in a different color. You can decide when you want to do the monitoring, or you can fill in the monitoring date later. So just click on the sheet, double click, and the date comes up. So, and here you just click on the arrow, and then you can decide what is your status. Any questions about this?
Madam, sorry.
Yes.
Before this, a few minutes ago, you were insisting about data correction.
Yeah.
And data is one among the things that help someone to know or to realize the gap.
Yeah.
But yeah, in making up this, I don't see the column which is showing that he has data correction, but we don't show it here.
But Mr. Rashidi, this will be in your action steps, right? So the first one might be, I'm going to develop and deliver the training. The second one will be set targets for the teachers. Third one, lesson observations. Fourth one, coaching. Last step, learning walk. Last one, final evaluation of the success. So your data collection will be in your steps.
Thank you, thank you.
That's a very good question, because how will you know that 75%? I would say that the first step might be for you to conduct a lesson observation to gather the data. Then you do the training, then you set the targets, and then you do another follow-up lesson observation, and the teachers who are not successful gets coaching, And then the last one will be the final evaluation of the success. I mean, that's just one example. And it might not be that you have 5 steps. You might have only 4 steps, right? Oops, I made a mistake here. I see I put, you might have 6 steps or you might have 5 steps. It's up to you how many steps you want to have. But I'm suggesting you don't have to fill all the steps in. Any other questions?
Yes, please, Madam.
Please
One
go
more
ahead.
question.
Yes.
It's not your question. So it's likely that the first step should be in action. I mean, it should not be related to data collection. Why? Because these goals has been prepared from the data which has been collected before.
Yes.
So I mean that goals are designed after seeing the data collected. So I don't think that the first step is to collect data.
Mr. Combo, it depends on what your goal is, right? So if your goal is, for example, your goal might be to review your performance management policy and teaching standards in the school. That might be your goal, right? So then the first step will not, I mean, the data would be, you would, your first step would be to review the current system that you have in place. If you already have the data, then of course your first step will not be collect the data because you already have the data, right? So it's just that the goals might be different. It's not always about the teacher's performance. It can also be around any of the other aspects that we've mentioned today. But that's a good point, Mr. Copper. Very good point.
Yeah.
I have a question here.
Would you please mute
I have a question
Somebody
here.
must please mute
Selemani
yourself.
Mzee, please.
Yeah.
Another issue is about. I mean, this action plan should be shared. Should be shared among who and who within the school.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody that's involved in the action plan should have the action plan, right? So if this action plan could perhaps be only for a specific subject, right? Where the head of department does the action plan. If it is for the whole school, you know, they don't necessarily need to know every step. It depends on what you are planning to achieve. But it's very important that the stakeholders who are involved in this need to see the action plan. Yeah, absolutely. We should be transparent. We should be sharing with people what we are.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
I have a question here.
Yes.
What are the difference between who will lead this step and who?
Sorry, say again. What's the difference?
What are the difference between who will lead this step and who in the question of
right? So who will lead the step? Who will lead the step is who will be responsible for doing the action, right? And the who here is who will be monitoring. Okay. So if it's if it is, let's say I distribute the leadership, I say to Mr. Combo, you're really good at leadership, at differentiation. I want you to give a session to the teacher. Who will be monitoring Mr. Combo that he's done his job? So who will do the thing and who will lead this? Who will be monitoring the impact? Who will check that the work is being done? That's the difference. Does that help you, Mr. Selemani? Is it clear?
Okay, I'm not understand. Who? Not clear in the figure of who. I understood who will lead this. I understood, but I'm not understanding who.
Okay, if I write it like that.
Okay.
So this one is who is going to do the action? Who is going to do the training? Yes.
Can I help?
Yes, please, Mr. Mr. Rashidi.
Yes, Mr. Suleiman, according to Madam, the way she's talking there, we have different columns here. The first column, the column number 3 here, the one who will be heading the action. But last year, to the part of monitoring, there is date who will monitor. And now who will monitor, it means that person watching out what is performed. Is it done as how it is required or in a different supervising?
Okay.
The supervisor.
Understood.
Good, very good. It's important to ask questions, you know, because sometimes it's just maybe something small. And if we don't understand, we don't ask a question, then we can never really be sure, right? So I really love questions. I think they're so important. So thank you very much. Okay. So anybody else who has a question or wants some clarity or some help?
I have a question, Madam Elmarie.
Yes, please.
But before that, I would want to take this opportunity to remind the members of muting, of putting the mutes, because it is destroying our ears and the voices, the echoes.
Yeah.
Things are not good at our side. That's just a reminder for everyone. And when someone is speaking and we are listening, it's better we mute. And then when you are given an opportunity to speak, then you can unmute. That's my first observation. On this action plan.
Yes.
On the side of monitoring.
Yes.
I've seen only this monitoring is done to this person who is going to take place in the actions which you have written here. Then I'm wondering, how about the overall process? For example, we did the other training session. Mr. Combo did it. It was successful, you can say. Then, how do we judge the people who were in the people who attended the session? Where do we monitor them from, and where do we put our data from? Because who will monitor?
Yeah, so
I'm monitoring only this.
I get what you're saying. I mean, if you say, for example, the training session, right? So I just simplified it, right? I said the first one is conducting the session. The second one is the second step will be then target setting for the individual teachers. The third step is observing the teachers in the classroom to monitor whether they are implementing the training in the classroom. So if you think about that, that is where that step comes in. So it's a whole cycle. So what I'm describing here is a whole cycle of implementation of anything that you do. Step one, the training. Did he do the training? Step two, the data. Each head of department must set targets for their teachers. They must have an action plan, whatever it is. Who's going to monitor that the teachers have set the action plans? The heads of department will do that. Third step, we want to see whether the teachers are implementing this training of this differentiation. It could be that we decide we're going to do a lesson planning evaluation. So we will look at the teachers' lesson plans. So the heads of department will check the teachers' lesson plan. So the monitoring bit is against the action. But the action means after I've done something, I need several steps to make sure that it is successful. And this is where things go wrong. As you've said yourself earlier, we deliver the training, but we don't monitor. So this action plan is how can we achieve this goal? The goal might be 75% of teachers will implement differentiation. So I will first train them. We will check their lesson plans. We will observe their lessons. We will have peer observations. Each step has a specific person who will do it, and you as a head of school or head of department will own this overall plan to see that the checking was done. So the people that do the monitoring must have access to this sheet. You can simplify this. I mean, you don't have to use this plan as it is, but I was thinking this will help you to break it down and will really help to see that the monitoring and evaluation bit really happens each step along the way. Does that answer your question, Mr. Abdul Rahman?
Thank you very much. I'm truly satisfied. Thank you.
Excellent. Anybody else? Last question. You're welcome to contact me after this if you have a question, or reach out to other people, reach out to Mr. Combo, Mr. Rashidi. You can help, you can ask them to support and help you as well with this along the way. So, and you can also reach out to Ms. Hanali, because Ms. Hanali is also here, and she can also help you. Hanali at right.education. I'm not in your WhatsApp group, so only some, I'm just connected with some people, but Mr. Combo can help you with that. So let's go on and just finalize this session and look at the last bit. And the last bit of this session is, you will see that on this part, if you click on this file, you can open the NAMA index rubric. I've shared it with you before. We've done some questions and answers, and I would just like you to then go to this, to the exit ticket. I'm going to put the link in the chat group, and I will also put the link to the session in the chat group, and I will also ask Mr. Seleman to share this with you, so that you can also have access to this training session, all of the training materials that we have given you for this training session. So let me just get to the chat. Do you all know how to access the chat in this? I'm just pasting the link. Okay, did you see the chat? Do you see the form?
Yes,
Yes.
And I'm also going to send you now the link to this session. I will also put that in the chat for you. And then you can access the action plan. And again, I want to say to you, you don't have to use this, right? You can just use the idea. It's up to you how you want to manage this. You can do an action plan on a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be a Google sheet. You can write it out. You can do it on Word or on Excel, or whatever way you feel works best for you. But the question always stays, and that question is, to take us back to the beginning, is, can you answer these questions? How good are your teachers? Are your teachers performing? Let's go back to those questions. Are my teachers effective? And how can I improve the practice of my teachers? And you have to have a performance management policy. You have to have teaching and learning standards. I have shared them with you. You can click on the on this, in this presentation, you can click on the links and you'll be able to open the NAMA standards. I've also shared the lesson observation form with you. And so it's going to make your life so much easier. And if you need any further help, please reach out to us. It's to me, Almarie at right.education, Haneli at right.education. You can reach out also to Madam Ajabu from EduLead, to Mr. Combo from EduLead, and even Mr. Rashidi is an EduLead, Mr. Juma is here. So we are a community of people working together to improve the practice of our teachers. And please let me know if you need further help, and please remember to complete the exit ticket so that you can get your certificate of attendance for this session. So last words, let me hear from you. Are there any people, did you find the session useful? Did you learn something? Do you feel that it was useful to you?
Yeah, the lesson was so useful to us, most especially on the side of monitoring, because that's where our very biggest weakness is. We are good at starting, but remaining on the track is the problem. I think from my side, I thank you very much, Madam Marie, for that wonderful presentation. And I think it is going to help us, and we pray that we stick on it. I know we shall improve in our organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I will, as I said, I will share the recording with Mr. Selemani as well, Seleman, so that he can share that. I will put it on YouTube for you to watch if you want to watch it again. So thank you very much. It's wonderful to see you all here. It's wonderful to have you participate, Mr. Hussein, and I'm going to ask, can you please turn on your camera so that we can take a picture? It will be nice to see all the faces behind the names, if possible. There's Ms. Hanley. Hi, Ms. Hanley. Mr. Mohammed, nice to see you. Mr. Juma, nice to see you. Excellent. Okay, I think I will have to split it in two because for some weird reason. Okay, are you ready? A nice smile. 1, 2, 3. Oh, Mr. Selemani, let's do it again because you were looking down. Okay, 1, 2, 3. There we go. I will share this. I will share this on the group. Yeah, it was lovely seeing all of you here. And we hope to see you in the next training session. And I also just want to remind you, if you are in sessions with the coaches, please attend. We've had 4 training sessions so far, or the 3, I think they are delivering the 4th session to you now. And that session is on school improvement planning. And we will still do another session on you're supposed to attend 8 training sessions with them. So use the opportunity. In Tanzania, it is Mr. Combo, Madam Ajabu, and also Madam Saumu. So please make sure that your teachers attend, you attend. Don't miss this opportunity that's given to you. Annelie, did you find the session useful, or do you want to add something?
It was very practical, and I really think it's a good starting point if we take note of the points that have been raised and we start systematically, because I've also found if I don't, like Almarie said, if I don't diarize the dates to do the assessment, or if I don't make it clear how they will be assessed and how they will be supported, then they don't know what to work towards. And it also makes them anxious. I've heard last week that apparently when I started at the new school, when I left my office, there was WhatsApps going in the school. She left the office, she's on her way. Teachers come and do a learning walk. So It's important that the teachers know that we're doing this to find good practice and to support them in making that.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I mean, and this comes with the word deprivatization of education. You deprivatize, meaning you make things public. People work together towards one goal. And if they are successful, you should celebrate this. Wow, we did a learning walk and we saw 60% or 75% of us, of the teachers, were doing this. Wow, this is wonderful. Or teacher of the week, best example. Praise them rather than punish them, and praise takes you so much further. Catch them doing the right thing instead of catching them doing the wrong thing. And know that teachers need open door policies. You know, they should be visiting each other's classrooms. They should be talking about practice. They should be sharing good practice rather than closed doors and, oh, please don't come to my classroom. This is when the culture of your school will change, and when you will definitely see a change in the results of your school. So thank you, everybody, for giving us so much of your time, and don't miss the next session, which will be session 4. We will most likely do this in July, same time, a month from now. So thank you for your good questions and for participating, and we'll see each other again soon. All right, so good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good night. Asante-san. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karibu.
Thank you so much.
Karibu-san. Thank you. Right. Bye-bye.